Secretary of State Marco Rubio appeared before Congress today, answering questions for the first time about the Trump administration's policy toward Venezuela and how involved the U.S. government and military will be. The secretary says they have had productive communication with the Venezuelan government to stabilize the country, and he insists Venezuela and the U.S. are in a better position now than before when deposed President Nicolás Maduro was in power.
I'm not here to claim to you this is going to be easy or simple. I am saying that in 3.5, almost 4 weeks, we are much further along on this project than we thought we would be, given the complexities of it going into it. We are dealing with people over there that have spent most of their lives living in a gangster paradise. But I think we're making good and decent progress. It is the best plan, and we are certainly better off today in Venezuela than we were 4 weeks ago.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Tsirkin joins us now. So, Julie, Rubio also answered questions about where all that Venezuelan oil money is going and about working with politicians who were allegedly connected to cartels. So what more are we learning about how that is being sorted?
Yeah, and I'll start with the oil. Vicki, it's good to be with you because Secretary Rubio did make some news in saying that this money from the oil that has been sanctioned will be overseen by the U.S. Treasury, but it will be used by the Venezuelan government on basic needs, he said, like health care, like policing. But I thought what was so notable in this hearing is that Democrats certainly pressed Rubio whether the Maduro operation was worth it, both in terms of the tax dollars that were spent not only on the operation, but in the months before it, seizing those oil tankers, conducting those operations in the Caribbean around the Venezuelan coast. And they also made note of the fact that this is the first public hearing that has been held by Secretary Rubio before Congress, the body that holds oversight, of course, of the State Department, since this all began months ago. Take a listen to a little bit more about what we heard from Rubio.
That we are dealing with, I told you, with individuals that have been involved in things that in our system would not be acceptable to us in the long term. By no means is our policy to leave in place something permanent that's as corrupt as you've described. We are in the transition and stabilization phase. We are just acknowledging reality, and that is you have to work with the people that are in charge of the elements of government.
And those people are certainly Delcy Rodriguez, who is the vice president for Maduro. Democrats and even some Republicans pushed Rubio on the fact that now you have a government that is essentially an arm of the previous one. Potential atrocities are still being committed against the people there, and the opposition government is not in power.
And, of course, the political prisoners question as well. But on that note, Julie, Rubio is also meeting with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. That's happening right now. What are you hearing about those conversations and the agenda there?
This is somebody that Rubio respects. He's had a relationship with her for over a decade. He, of course, was in the Senate before he was Secretary of State, really zeroing in on matters of Venezuela. And the reason this is so notable is because, as the lawmakers pointed out in this hearing, it was President Trump and this administration that suggested that Machado does not have the support of her people to be able to carry the mantle forward. That is why Delcy Rodriguez is now leading that government. But it also comes after Machado met with President Trump and met with lawmakers up here earlier in January. So certainly that is a conversation to watch as this administration tries to plan for what's next for that country.
All right, Julie Tsirkin reporting live for us today. Julie, thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.